So I missed last year's Open Hardware Summit because I am in Rome. This year I have a lot to say and time is short, so I will be a little bit excited. So I'm going to talk about design from manufacturer because I think a lot of you know design for manufacturer. It is too arrogant for a small team, for the early stage product to say design for manufacturer because a lot of the suppliers don't care because the volume is too small. So instead, what we can do is we share resources from existing manufacturings and to look at how we can design and ramp up more smoothly. So a lot of things we have seen is that the makers are facing the difficulties of manufacturing. So I'm very excited we are talking about manufacturing today. And I want to give you some examples for the small teams who has facing much easier in their supply chains. So they are like the supply chain makers. They are, doing it in a totally different way, more agile way, so-called Shanzhai. So some of you might have heard of these Shanzhai mobile phones. They actually come from the story like 500 years ago about the Chinese Robin Hood. Like the small cottages, the gangsters, but they have their rules and the beliefs to work together. But now, I'm not going to that too much. You can Google a little bit and find more. But now, they are coming up with technologies. They have the illegal, copycat, bad quality mobile phones. But they are becoming outdated. They are evolving into something new. It's called a derivative Robin Hood, I'm calling them. They have all kinds of mobile phones that fit into different niche market, and they are very, very affordable. Like Bonnie Huang just pointed out last year, there is a $12 mobile phones, and the time to market is very fast. Like 1 month, they can have a new idea and get that sold in the channels, and they have fit into a very diverse market. I think the success story is that they are not working alone. They have a lot of competitions among different Robin Hoods, but they work together. They try to share the same factories so they can buy their parts cheaper. They can hire the same engineer to do their works and share the cost. Another newer example is a Sonowheel. It's like Antronic auto balance bike. It was sold at like $2,000 and invented in the United States. It was too expensive and it's not available. I don't see anyone riding it in the States. But the fact is I see people riding it in Shenzhen, average one per day I can see. So they took the idea and remolded it in a very different way. Like they have the racer version with the pedals. I bought the twin wheel version, which is much easier for people like me to learn. And you can put an iPad on it, maybe put it in, change it into a telepresence robot. And you can find more than 20 different models out in the market. There's another commonality is that they share the parts from electric bikes. So they use the same battery, they use the same button, they use the same chargers. But they from the commonalities, they have their specialty. Some might very good at the app, using a mobile phone to control it. Some of them might change the enclosure to make it better looking. Some could have some carbon fibertex to make it cool. But they share a lot of these common parts to make it feasible for each to come up with some idea and manufacture in time and in a very affordable cost. The cost is like $300 each. So this is a more closer example. It's the Crazy Fly. It's from a Swedish company called BitCris, and Tobias will be here in the weekends. So it's a palm-sized quadcopter. It's a very cool idea about 2 or 3 years ago, and a lot of media has reported about that. But then there are toy companies in China. They might be operate elsewhere as well. So they come up with all kinds of derivatives. The same. They share the same components. They have a lot of, design for manufacturer process efforts to make them easy to do. It's not only abusing on the label, but it's more on designing it according to the manufacturing. So what we can see from this is, should we be angry about that? I'm talking with a Swedish team. If we look at them as them, so we will never, collaborate. We'll be competing with them. But if we take a step forward, be more open, it's another group of people making quadcopters. Can we work together? I think definitely yes. These people are more open than we thought. You can pause there. You can just, can I buy your parts? Can you manufacture for me? Or do you want to join my company? So I think if our products get synergized, we have very high possibility to synergize them again, to learn what they have improved, to hug them into the open innovation movement. So we can get from annoyed to blessed. Back to the topic. So I think what I'm going to share today is there is a big, huge advantage for open hardware people to benefit from open hardware, not only on designing, but also manufacturing, because we have so many resources we are sharing. So the game has changed. If you look at 1984, the things are very unified, especially in the Soviet countries. And the manufacturing is very centralized. The process is very rigid. You build something you want to manufacture forever, and the components are usually dedicated. But now we are in an area that is more long tail. There are so many different companies manufacturing very decentralized, and the process is usually flexible. You have the same equipment, but you make different kinds of things. In our prerequisite is that the components are becoming more and more standardized, which means they have the footprint, they have same interface. But I see what could be the next extreme, and it might be totally customized. As people have so many niche markets, so many ego, this thing has to be like, manufacturing has to be more like a service. As a service, it should be approximate to the customers. You just go down to the street and you find some place, then you can get your things made, tailored to your needs. So I think the process is becoming more ready as we have more and more mature, powerful 3D printers. And we will have more robotics that can assemble things for us. The process itself is much less relied on the technicians. But the components is still the big headache, I think, for people who wants to manufacture. So for the services, for customized things, I think the components need to be very much shared. If you look at DigiKey, they have several millions of SKU. You don't want to store them locally. So if you want to do it manufacturing locally, you need to have a shared small quantity of things. Here is another example. I think I starting to have this idea since the first Open Hardware Summit. We're talking about we have a wiki for the parts. And from a statistic calculation, we have from the 100 very popular components, they can consist like 30% of an average bill of material. So if we can share the library, we can share the supply chain, we can improve the cost, lead time, quality, and very importantly, you can share the knowledge of people. So we took an example, it's called Espruino. It's a Kickstarter campaign. And this guy coming to us say, okay, I want to get this manufactured. We have 4,000 orders. So can you change the components if it's possible? So he looked at the open parts library we are listed. By that time, he says, why not? So he changed all the components except for the microcontrollers. And we only spent 20 days going for the first prototype to 4,000 pieces shipping. Because all the components are in our warehouse. Some of them are in our pick and place machine. We don't bother to change it. So it's very frank. I think it's a good example that we can benefit from these open hardware resources. And this is just the beginning. I think some of you have known that OCTPath just published their common parts library. It's the same idea, but they are more like big, more wider, more neutral platform. And they are also working with all kinds of companies like Adafruit, Dragon, EIMP, and I think Huawei. and more companies, I think it could be a very shared resource for us. If we have more HDK, we have SDK for software. How about we have hardware development kit for all kinds of applications? And on each of the application, we share the same components. So we can make that kind of things. It's not only easy to design, but also easy to promote to other places. So another thing we want to do is, we are looking at existing maker scene. We use a lot of industrial components for consumer electronics design, and I think it's wrong. Advantage in China is that we are very approximate to the consumer electronics supply chains. So we are keep digging into the mine and to see what are the things we can use for the open hardware world. So as from the cheap mobile phones, they have very good, reliable chipsets. So we bring them in, and they are interested in the maker scene as well, MediaTek. So we have used a mobile phone chipset to make it open to the public. So it's an ARM7 processor with GSM, GPRS, GPS, BLE, Wi-Fi, SD card all in one. And we're trying to make it Arduino compatible, and it's open source. So if you want to design some mobile phone, you can just choose existing modules where they becoming very accessible. So it's called Linked One. You can check it out. And this is just an example. We will dig more into the consumer electronic market. So we can use their resource for the open world. It's much more efficient to do that. So back to some introduction. So I'm Eric. I'm a maker and I'm a biker. So Seed, we call ourselves maker for makers. What we really want to see is the differentiating products. They grow from an idea to some prototype and all the way to an independent product. It's not necessary to go from very high volume. It can like several hundred, several thousands, but it's still good enough to make something totally unique. And for the bigger things, I think there are a lot of companies like Foxconn, like PCH, they can handle that. We are the middle school for the makers to grow. One more thing is that I think we don't want to argue with made in China or something like that. We want to say that we want to innovate with the world. And we come to the Make Fair Shenzhen, will be happening next June again. It will be a featured Make Fair. So if you are interested, please give me some applause. Thank you.